So, growing up, Salisbury Steak had a negative connotation to it. It was one of those things that you got served at lunch at school, and it was just a hamburger with some sauce thrown on it. A friend of mine shared this today on Facebook, and we're going to try it out. We're going to try it with you here, and hopefully we get to change your mind about it and come up with a new idea for dinner. So here we go. Okay, so we have, you can do lean ground beef or something like that. This is actually elk that we've mixed a little hamburger into to take some of the leanness out of it, because game is super lean anyway. There's actually no fat in it. So we actually add it while we're processing and grinding, just because it helps basically everything that we do, whether it's burgers or goulash or anything like that, with it sticking together, and it adds a little bit of flavor to the game. Also, we're gonna have a little bit of ketchup. By the way, all of our recipes will be on DutcherDelectables.com. Anything we post, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or on our blog, all the recipes and all the ingredients are going to be there. So we're going to start with Worcestershire sauce, a couple teaspoons of that. We have garlic powder, onion powder, some breadcrumb. This is some homemade Italian seasoning, 2 eggs, salt, pepper, and a little bit of ketchup. This is actually a Wyoming sauce company spicy ketchup made right here in Gillette. So keep everything local, keep it America. For the sauce, after we get the burgers going, the sauce is going to have 2 cans of beef broth in it, a little bit of olive oil, an onion. This is a lot of baby bella mushrooms. We're not going to use this much. We're going to use about 16 ounces of it. This is 24. I'm a garlic fanatic. We're going to use a bunch of this, and again, Worcestershire sauce. Okay, let's get started. This is 2 pounds of ground elk meat with a little bit of bacon mixed into it. I have no recipe for that. We have 2 boys in this household that are growing, so we're gonna go with 2 pounds just because they eat a lot. So we're gonna start 2 pounds ground lean meat. That's what we'll go with. 2/3 of a cup breadcrumbs. This is my mix of ingredients. It is 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper. That's what's in this. Like I said, we'll have the recipe online if you need it, but it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Okay, we need 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Call it W sauce, whatever. And I am running out. And a quarter. Okay, we got our new one here. We always have some spare. The last 3/4. Spicy ketchup. Get you some of this. It's great stuff. We need 2 tablespoons of the spicy ketchup. Two eggs. Okay, that's all the ingredients. Now we're just gonna mix by hand. Salisbury steak is almost the ingredients of a meatloaf. But it's just got a different sauce to it. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll get to forming some patties and getting them on the plate, or on the frying pan. All right, we're gonna start forming the patties. we're gonna use this burger press that we have. I'm worried about that being sticky with breadcrumb and the egg and all that stuff that's in it. So we're gonna try squirting it down with some extra virgin olive oil spray. Hopefully it don't stick inside of that, because it's been known to happen. If it does, we'll just freehand it and hopefully it looks good. I'm sure it'll taste fine, so. Okay. Also, right now I have a preheated 13-inch cast iron pan on medium heat. It's preheated, so that's why once I form these, I'm gonna put them directly on the stove. We want these about 3/4 of an inch thick and as symmetrical as possible. Hopefully it falls right out of there. Oh, look at that. I am a new genius. All right, now we got to get that Salisbury steak shape. We're gonna make it into an oval instead of the round one. All right, we're gonna throw that right on the hot cast iron. Okay, we have our patties shaped into kind of an oval to get that classic Salisbury steak shape, and we have our preheated pan, and it's just starting to sizzle a little bit. When you put this on there, whenever you're searing anything, you want it to sizzle when it hits that pan. If not, you'll start getting stickiness and things like that happen. Okay, it's only been about 3 minutes or so since we started this. So we're going to turn these over. Again, we're just searing them. The pan's a little hot. That one's a little on the dark side. But that's not bad. It's not burnt. It's just dark. And we're just getting a good crust on them. They're actually going to cook to temperature in the gravy. That's the whole plan. So now we've browned all the patties, all the Salisbury steaks, and I took them off. We're just putting a crust on them. We have an internal temp right now between 110 and 115 on all of them, so they're not even close to done. While we were browning those, we took that time and we peeled a handful of potatoes, and now we're going to boil those. So we're going to have mashed potatoes with the Salisbury steak. We also diced up an onion. What I found out when I started was my pan wasn't big enough, so I only could do 4 at a time, and I ended up with 5 patties. So I've upped the size to my 14-inch pan, and now I'm going to heat that. We're going to start with olive oil, and we're going to saute the onions until they start turning that translucent. Okay, bigger pan. Our olive oil is now really hot and preheated, so we're going to put, this is 1 medium onion is kind of what we went with here. We're gonna cook that until it's about half done. That's what we're looking for, is about half. We don't want to fully cook it because we still have a bunch of cooking to do with the mushrooms and everything else that's in there. Okay, we're about half cooked now. They're starting to just turn a little clear around the edges, so we're about halfway there. Now I'm going to add 16 ounces of lots of mushrooms. And that's the idea here, is we want lots of mushrooms. About there, that fills up the pan pretty good. Of course, that's all going to render down. And at the same time, I'm going to get a good old heaping spoonful, not that much, of garlic. Okay, so it's been about 12 minutes. The mushrooms have turned brown and rendered down. You notice how So much smaller everything is. And the little bit of olive oil that I had in the bottom of this has already been soaked up, burned off, used up. Now we're going to go to the next step and start making basically like a roux. We're going to add a half a stick of butter or 4 tablespoons. Okay, butter's gone. Now I'm going to add a third of a cup of flour and let that brown a little bit. Of course, I'm going to sprinkle it on top, try to cover as much as I can, and let it soak up some of that butter. Okay. Now start mixing it around. It's going to get thick. We're kind of coating everything in that flour and butter mixture, so it gets really thick and really dry. It's not going to take very long to brown this flour at all. You're just trying to get it mixed up and incorporated with the basically the gravy or the roux that you have made. Okay, we'll give that a couple minutes and then we'll start adding in our beef broth. Okay, it has been about 2 minutes. This stuff's pretty brown. It's sticking just a little bit, that's fine. So I've used cast iron. I got a wire wheel out there, we can take that right off. Actually, when we put the broth in, it'll strip it right off the pan. We don't even have to worry about it, especially if your cast iron is good and seasoned. So now we're going to start incorporating in the beef broth. I am not brand specific at all. Whatever you got, it'll work. Now, what I like using about the cast iron, the reason I like using the cast iron, I should say, is because it'll hold the heat better than a thin non-stick pan will, because you don't want to shock all the heat out of what you're doing, out of your cooking. You want to keep it warm. Don't add too much at once. Kind of move that around. And you're just kind of stirring it in. As it boils off, you're going to add a little more. It gets really thick. But just keep moving it around. Keep stirring. Let that heat back up and I'll start adding some more. Okay, I just shut off right before we started this video the the potatoes that we've been boiling. We're gonna mash those up here in just a second. As soon as I get all this broth incorporated into this, we'll mash those up and set them aside, keep them warm, so that way when we're finished up with the steaks, we'll serve it right on top of it. Okay, you see how it's bubbling? I haven't stopped stirring. It's bubbling, it means it's good and hot. I'm going to go ahead and start adding in that next can. That's all stirred in. Now we're going to let that heat up. And then we'll be placing our steaks in it and letting those cook down. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes. It's come back to a boil. simmering pretty good. I've been stirring it every 30 seconds or so, just kind of moving everything around just so it doesn't stick. Now I'm going to start adding the Salisbury steaks to it and getting them finished up cooking. I'm going to add some Worcestershire sauce just for flavor first. A good amount. Also the salt and pepper. I want these to get towards the bottom. Fish them down in there, get the mushrooms off and around them, or around it instead of under it, to get some good heat in there. Now that they're in there, I'm going to take just a ladle, cover them up with that gravy so it starts soaking that in. Cover it up with the mushrooms and stuff like that. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes since we shut the camera off, but you can see the gravy is very much rendered down. It's starting to actually just stick just a little bit, so I went ahead and shut it off. We can go ahead and scrape the bottom and get all the goodies off that. A little editor's note: the safe internal temperature for game meat is 145, 135, depending on what website you look at. But the safe internal temperature for bacon is 145. So technically speaking, the safe internal temperature for everything here for wild game and the pork that's mixed into it is 145. So I'm going to pull it off at 145 just because I like my meat a little more on the rare side than the well done side. If I was going to keep this going, if I had somebody in the house that really liked, they wanted their burger well done, what I would do, since the gravy is about the perfect consistency, but if they want it well done, I'll probably get some more beef broth, add to this, just because it's going to start getting too thick and we'll have big time sticking problems. But this is perfect. We're going to pull it off the heat and start plating it up. Okay, we're going to plate it up. Take your Salisbury steak, put it on your plate, make sure everybody gets plenty of gravy with the mushrooms. It's not going to be pretty. I don't do pretty, I do good. Side it with the mashed potatoes. This is my plate. I like potatoes. It's all good. Throw a little bit of that gravy that's still in the pan on there also. Then I'm going to take a little green salad, throw it on the side. I'm going to try it. If it needs salt, needs pepper, add it to it now. There's nobody's saying that you have to eat this, but I think it looks pretty good. As I thought, turned out amazing. I hope you guys like it. Follow us on Facebook, like us, and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, and check us out at DutcherDelectables.com. Have a great evening.